A stack of envelopes lay on the dark wooden table at the back of the small agency. It was an uneven pile, held together by a rubber band that was already losing its color. The letters had been there for 3 days. The constant rain that had fallen over the valley all week had turned the dirt roads into thick rivers of mud, preventing any safe crossing. No one had come down to the town, and no messages had gone up to the more distant homes. The flow of things was interrupted. Maybe this is just another one of those quiet stories, made to help you relax. And sometimes that's all we really need. Vicente rose from the chair and walked to the wooden coat rack fastened to the wall. It was an old object with marks of use that darkened the edges and softened the material. The thick leather had molded over the years, gaining creases and textures that told the story of many journeys. He took the satchel from the hook, feeling the familiar weight of the wide strap in his hand. He carried the satchel to the table and unlatched the brass buckle. The metal was cool to the touch, and the pin slid easily through the worn hole in the strap. He opened the top flap, revealing the interior divided into 3 compartments. The scent of treated leather rose faintly, mingling with the freshness from the window. With calm movements, he began to transfer the bundles of letters from the table into the satchel. The first bundle, destined for the nearest houses, was tucked into the front divider. The paper slid against the soft leather with a muffled sound. He repeated the gesture with the other piles, arranging the weight so the satchel remained balanced. The last item was a small package wrapped in brown paper and tied with cotton twine. He adjusted it at the bottom, ensuring it wouldn't crease the envelopes. When he finished, he closed the flap and threaded the strap through the brass buckle, tightening it to the exact point. He lifted the satchel and slung the strap over his head, letting it cross his chest and rest on his right hip. The wide strap settled on the shoulder of his thick fabric jacket. The weight was not excessive, but it was constant, a solid presence that would accompany him for the next few hours. Vicente walked to the front door. He took the bunch of keys from his trouser pocket and chose the largest one. The metallic jingle of the keys echoed briefly. He opened the door and stepped onto the sidewalk. The street air was much colder than the air inside the agency. It was a damp chill that touched his face and awakened his senses. He turned, inserted the key into the lock, and turned it. The internal mechanism clicked firmly, locking the heavy wooden door. Vicente put the keys back in his pocket, adjusted his jacket collar, and took the first step. The main street of the small town was still deserted. The uneven cobblestones glistened with the night's moisture. Rainwater had collected in the dips, forming small puddles that reflected the gray sky and the low rooftops. Vicente's footsteps sounded clear in the morning silence. The thick rubber soles of his boots met the damp stone with a firm, rhythmic sound. He walked slowly, feeling the texture of the ground change beneath his feet. Each step, the leather satchel swayed very lightly against his hip, accompanying his body's movement. The scent of the wet town was made of many layers. There was the aroma of wood smoke rising from a distant chimney, the smell of almond leaves fallen on the sidewalks, and the freshness of clean water still trickling through the gutters. The cobblestone street ended where the dirt road began. It was the boundary between the town and the valley. Vicente noticed the difference the moment his boot sole left the hard stone surface and touched the compacted earth. The sound of his steps changed immediately, becoming lower, softer. The earth was dark and saturated with water, but it wasn't slippery. The sand mixed with the clay gave firmness to his stride. He followed the dirt road, which curved gently along the contour of the first hills. The trees on the roadside were laden with water droplets. Every now and then, a light breeze passed through the branches, causing the leaves to sway and release a small private shower onto the ground. The sound of drops falling on the damp earth was like a continuous whisper. Vicente adjusted his breath to the rhythm of his walk. The cold air entered his lungs, bringing a clean energy. He didn't think about the total length of the journey, only about the stretch beneath his feet at that moment. The landscape gradually opened up. The clustered houses were left behind, replaced by wooden fences and green fields that stretched to the base of the mountains. The day was slowly settling in, without strong sun, just a gentle clarity that made the valley's colors deeper and more restful. The dirt road descended in a long, gentle slope, leading Vicente towards the bottom of the valley. The sound of his footsteps on the damp earth began to blend with a continuous, low rumble coming from further ahead. It was the sound of the river. With the rains of the past few days, the waters had risen and the current was strong, rushing branches and leaves along. Vicente continued descending. The trees along the path began to grow taller, with thick trunks covered with green, damp moss. The smell in the air changed. The aroma of open earth gave way to the fresh, mineral scent of running water and wet stones. The humidity down there was denser, almost palpable, clinging lightly to the skin of his face. Soon the road took a sharp turn, revealing the old wooden bridge that crossed the river. The wide planks were dark with water, and the supporting beams seemed sturdy despite their age. On the other side of the bridge stood the first house of the route. It was a simple construction, with white painted walls and blue framed windows, surrounded by a low wall of stacked stones. Vicente stepped onto the bridge. The sound of water rushing beneath the planks was loud and filled the entire surrounding space. The wood yielded a fraction of a millimeter under the weight of his boot, emitting a very low, muffled creak. He walked slowly, feeling the slight vibration of the structure with each step. The water rushed agitatedly, forming white foam around the larger stones in the riverbed. Upon completing the crossing, he stepped back onto solid ground and walked to the house's stone wall. Attached to the rustic wooden gate was a galvanized metal mailbox. The box was shaped like a small house with a slanted roof to shed rain. The silver paint was worn at the corners, showing small patches of brown rust. He stopped before the gate. The leather satchel on his hip swayed and settled. Vicente opened the satchel's flap and reached into the first compartment. His fingers found the envelope destined for that house. The paper was intact, protected from the external dampness. He pulled out the letter and closed the satchel's buckle with his other hand. Carefully, he held the small handle of the mailbox's lid. The metal was very cold. He pulled the lid down. The hinge, unaccustomed to being opened daily, offered slight resistance and emitted a short, sharp squeak. The inside of the box was dark and dry. He slid the white envelope inside, ensuring it rested snugly at the bottom, away from any crack where the wind might enter. He released the lid, which fell back into place with a dry, metallic thud. The sound marked the completion of the first delivery. The message had reached its destination. The feeling of a duty fulfilled, even such a small task, brought a subtle relief. The satchel's weight had decreased almost imperceptibly, but Vicente knew there was one less envelope inside. He stepped away from the gate and looked at the house. The windows were closed and there was no movement in the yard. Only a dog barked twice somewhere in the back of the property, a sound muffled by the distance and the river's noise. A dewdrop, accumulated on a fern leaf hanging over the wall, grew too heavy and fell
silently onto the dark earth.
Vicente turned his back to the house and looked at the road ahead. The path now began to climb, moving away from the riverbank and entering a denser area of vegetation. The sound of the water gradually grew fainter as he took his first steps uphill. The pace of his walk changed, requiring a little more strength in his legs, but he maintained the same steady, unhurried cadence. The morning advanced, and the cold air from the valley bottom began to mix with slightly milder air currents descending from the slopes. The dirt road left the open riverbanks and plunged into a dense forest area. These were tall trees with straight trunks and rough bark, whose canopies met high above, forming a natural roof of dark leaves. As Vicente entered this stretch, the light changed. The gray, diffuse clarity of the sky was filtered